Vanakkam Dohadeva and everyone, wonderful to be with you. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And I'll try and share the screen. Share. Here we go, April 30th in Asia. Our first topic. Okay. Merit, demerit, and liberation. Yes, perform good deeds, but know there is more involved in the soul maturing process leading to freedom from rebirth. In Hawaii, we call this hitting two mangoes with one stone, doing two things at once. So once we start, you'll recognize it. It's the talk I prepared for Kailas Ashram to give in last January. And I gave it as a series of Zooms in December, I believe. So in its original form, it was about 35 minutes long, and now it's been condensed into a publisher's desk. Publisher's desk is approximately 1,400 words and takes approximately 12 minutes as a keynote. So we're going to look at it as a keynote. And since you've seen the material once, I have some challenging questions in it here and there. In Hinduism, human conduct is summed up by two salient terms, papa and punya. How would you define papa? Sanskrit word, papa. Papa refers to both unethical action and the demerit earned through wrongdoing. So two parts to the same idea, the action itself and the demerit earned by the action. Wrong action. Indian texts provide various lists of wrongful actions. Among all transgressions, injuring others, hinsa, is considered the most serious offense. Conversely, refraining from injuring others, called ahimsa, is the foremost virtue. So, as you know, the quote I like to give is from Mahabharata. Extols its supremacy. Ahimsa is the highest dharma. It is the highest purification. It is also the highest truth from which all dharma proceeds. In Ashtanga Yoga, the idea of avoiding wrongdoings is called yama, or restraint. Sage Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras lists 5 famed restraints, of which ahimsa is the first. So in the list of what we shouldn't do, everybody agrees that the primary one is ahimsa. Tirukkural says that too. Truthfulness is next. An excellent definition of ahimsa is found in the Sandilya Upanishad. Ahimsa is not causing pain to any living being at any time. So I'm interrupting the quote by asking a question. What are the 3 ways not to cause injury? So the balance of the quote gives 3 ways that we don't want to cause injury. 3 types of injury. Through the actions of one's mind, speech, or body. The text points out that the virtue is not limited to injuring others with one's body, but also one's speech and even thoughts. So subtle is this transgression that one is admonished for hurting someone even in a dream. So yes, we shouldn't hurt people even in dreams. A common justification for resorting to violence is in retaliation for injuries inflicted on you, members of your family, your religion, or nation. Many in the world today believe that in those instances retaliation is not only permitted, it is one's duty. Hinduism does not support this eye for an eye mentality. In fact, our oldest scripture, the Rig Veda, speaks against it. Return not blow for blow, nor curse for curse. Neither meanness for base tricks. Shower blessings instead. Then there's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Individuals who have harnessed the instinctive tendencies to become angry and hurtful naturally manifest a greater concern for others. So then the next term, how would you define punya? Oh, it's the same idea. It's both the action and the merit. So this brings us to punya, virtuous action, and the merit earned through right thought, word, and action. So the deed itself, as well as the merit, the good merit earned, both called punya. As we know, 21st century society is highly materialistic. Hindu youth are growing up with worldly, self-oriented motivations. Wealth, career, name, and fame. For the greater good, the materialistic tendency should be balanced by helping others, adopting the Hindu perspective of how can I support others. That's from Kannada there. Kannada script. The only way I know Kannada script is it looks like Sinhalese. That's how I know what it is. As I jokingly say in my talks, 2 Mercedes in the family garage is enough, meaning we want to be surrounded by quality possessions, but having no limits on luxuries, one enters the slippery path of self-indulgence. Turns out the happiest among the wealthy are those who use their abundance for high purpose and avoid excessive gratifications. The noblest among them are turning their immense wealth over to humanitarian causes. For example, Bill Gates, one of the world's richest men, founded the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to improve health care and reduce poverty worldwide. He has stated that wealthy people have a responsibility to use their resources to make the world a better place. Very true. A second way to earn punya is selfless service or seva, which is traditionally done at a temple or ashram, for example, helping with the many tasks involved in preparing for a festival. In modern cities, this approach may not always work, especially when traveling from home to a temple or ashram takes a long time. There is a solution. Broaden selfless service to include helping others wherever we are, at home, work, school, in the neighborhood, and community. In its broadest sense, seva includes anything we do to help others that we are not going to be paid to do, or don't have to do. Our recompense is goodwill, merit, and good karma. A Sanskrit term that describes the earning of punya, merit, is ishtapurtam. Swami Harshananda, in his A Concise Encyclopedia of Hinduism, gives this explanation. The term refers to the cumulative spiritual result or merit due to a man's performance of ritual worship and charitable acts. Ishta includes all types of ritual worship, including the gifts given during its performance. Purta indicates the various acts of charity and public utility, such as building and dedicating of deep wells for the good of the public, building temples and gardens, free distribution of food, giving gifts, nursing the sick, and many other acts of charity sanctioned by the holy books. Swami Harshananda mentions a second traditional way of earning punya, which is sponsoring ritual worship, including yajna, fire ritual often conducted by many priests for the upliftment of the world. The positive force invoked by such elaborate worship blesses those attending and benefits all creatures. That was a phrase that Shamogam Shivacharya during the Yerevan Crystal Lingam installation used a lot, that we're not doing this ceremony just to benefit all of us here, we're doing it to benefit all creatures, not even just all humans, all creatures of all species are benefited when these types of ceremonies are performed with that in mind. A popular concept in Hinduism and other religions too is that if we live virtuously, earning abundant punya, then after our transition from life on earth, we will permanently reside in the heaven worlds. The Mundaka Upanishad decrees this concept to be false. While the punya earned by Ishta and Purta does grant access to the heaven worlds, eventually that punya is used up and the soul is reborn once again. Mundaka Upanishad explains these deluded men, regarding sacrifices and works of merits as most important, do not know any other good. That's a translation of Ishtapurta. Having enjoyed in the high place of heaven, won by good deeds, they enter again this world or a still lower one. And the question to you, what is it then that grants the soul freedom from rebirth? Oh, this is also a question in the actual text, so the next slide is the answer. Paramatma Darshana, the Jivatma experiencing itself as Paramatma in the state of jnana, enlightened wisdom. Thus we can say that the fruit of jnana is moksha, total liberation from the cycle of birth and death on earth. Gurudeva gave a succinct description of this idea. Deep inside, we are perfect this very moment. We have only to discover and live up to this perfection to be whole. We have taken birth in a physical body to grow and evolve into our divine potential. We are inwardly already one with God. Our religion contains the knowledge of how to realize this oneness and not create unwanted experiences along the way. In talks on the idea of how we can grow and evolve into our divine potential, I use the analogy of dance. I ask the audience, what is most needed for a youth to become good at Hindu classical dance? Invariably, many give the answer that I have in mind, which you all know is practice. Reading books about dance won't make you a good dancer, nor will attending classes without practicing what you have learned. Regular disciplined practice is needed. Likewise, to grow and evolve into our divine potential, to manifest our inner perfection in our outer intellectual and instinctive nature, requires regular practice called sadhana. Slide's a bit too long. In dance, it is clear you need to start with making the body strong and limber. Then you systematically master the various movements, positions, gestures, and expressions, combining them to perform simple dances. After that, more and more complex dances can be perfected. We can think of the basic practices of selfless service and devotional worship as equivalent to the simpler dance steps. These steps are important but are not the entirety of the path to complete mastery. Philosophically, their practice creates a dualistic relationship with the deity called Dvaita in Sanskrit. There are always two of you, the devotee and the deity, who is the object of your worship. Meditation, a further step, is a deeper type of practice. In its most profound form, there are no longer two. You and the deity are the same. However, it is not the personal God that you are one with. It is the impersonal aspect of God, Sat-Chit Ananda, or omnipresent consciousness. There is an even deeper experience, which is oneness with the transcendental source of Sat-Chit Ananda. In philosophical terms, this experience is non-dualism, called Advaita in Sanskrit. It is the state of the Jivatma experiencing itself as Paramatma. This is Paramatma Darshana, self-realization. Mundaka Upanishad instructs, taking as a bow the great weapon of the Upanishads, one should place in it the arrow sharpened by meditation, drawing it with a mind engaged in the contemplation of Brahman. O beloved, know that imperishable Brahman is the target. The syllable Om is the bow, oneself indeed is the arrow. Brahman is spoken of as the target of that. It is to be hit without making a mistake. Thus one becomes united with it as the arrow becomes one with the target. Conclusion. Good works are needed to control the mind and enter deeper states of consciousness. They are fundamental steps on the spiritual path. While one is creating papam, he cannot really meditate. Life and the mind are in constant disturbance. Karmas pile up, consuming mind and emotions, creating barriers, boulders, life after life. Deep meditation comes only when the mind is clear, the heart is pure. Actions of past and present are resolved, and dharma is fulfilled. Yes, perform good deeds, but know there is more involved in the grand soul maturing process leading to liberation. Nice message from Mundaka Upanishad. Second topic. Questions sent in to satsang@hindu.org. I think you'll find this one interesting. Please illumine the significance of homa fires. Why should you perform a monthly homa? So I should preface this by saying I'm talking about homa fire as done in the recent Crystal Lingam installation. There's many types of fire ceremonies, and to be able to describe them all, I don't have that kind of knowledge. But this is a specific fire ceremony, as you'll see, that's done when there's an installation involved. And it's also the one that the monks do. The homa, fire ceremony, takes place in a homa kunda. So that's the homa pit. That's a graphic there, nicely decorated. Oh, this is only half of what is happening. It's not the whole thing. There is also adjacent to the homa kunda one or more water pots. These are connected to the homa kunda with a thread. The terminology for the pot can be kumbha, kalasa, kumbha kalasa, or purna kumbha. So purna kumbha is the picture. This term is commonly used in Hindu rituals and refers to the kalasha that is considered full or complete, as it is filled with water and a coconut has been placed on top. Nice graphic. Oh, now we've got the two parts, homa kunda and the purna kumbha. Homa kunda, purna kumbha. What happens? Spiritual energy is generated through the chants, mudras, and offerings done by the priest during the homa. That energy is stored in the purna kumbhas. The purna kumbha is in effect a battery for spiritual energy. For an installation ceremony, this process is done over a number of days, trying to get a big charge stored up, so it takes more than one day. The significance of a homa done in conjunction with the purna kumbha is to supercharge the kumbha with spiritual energy, which toward the end of the ceremony is poured over the murti. There's no special significance to doing a homa once a month. The monks used to perform a monthly homa in Kadavol. Currently, they are doing the ceremony 3 times a year on the first day of a new Ratau. And when the monks do a ceremony, the purna kumbha charged up at the 6 a.m. homa is used as the last offering in the 9 a.m. Shiva Abhishekam. So it's used later that day. And it's last. It's looked at as the most important liquid that's being poured over the murti. So it has the last place. The 3+1 homa during the Mahalingeshwara installation, as it relates to Pancha Brahman and the 3 worlds. Sounds like something I might write. It's very cryptic. The number of homa kundas during an installation ceremony depends on the number of murtis and other objects being installed. For Evan Temple, there were 3 homa kundas. One was for Mahalingeshwara, the Sphatikalingam, a second for the 5 Pancha Brahma bronzes, so there was 1 fire for all 5, and a third for Vimana, Rajagopuram, and Kodimaram, 1 fire for all 3 of those. The number of homakundas has no relationship to Pancha Brahman and the 3 worlds. It is based on practicality rather than philosophy. For example, how many priests you have and how many objects you are blessing. So the more objects and the more priests, then the more homakundas you could have. Third topic, tolerance, which is the 62nd character quality. That's the black sheep there. Of our character building workbook, how would you define tolerance? The workbook gives this definition. Tolerance is being accepting of individuals of all natures, ethnicities, ideologies, and religions. I follow it by honoring and striving to see the divine in everyone. The opposite is prejudice. Gurudeva's quote, Hindus believe in the existence of God everywhere, as an all-pervasive self-effulgent energy and consciousness. This basic belief creates the attitude of sublime tolerance and acceptance toward others. Even tolerance is insufficient to describe the compassion and reverence the Hindu holds for the intrinsic sacredness within all things. Next quote. The enlightened person living on the planet suffers the great acceptance of things as they are. No longer through his ignorance does he feel a need to be manipulative. Sufferance means acceptance. Tolerance and complete joyousness is seeing the perfect, ever interrelating in trillions of perfect ways. Very nice. Comparing the actions of one who is tolerant to one who is prejudiced. Or situation and thinking of people of ethnicities or religions other than your own, you. Tolerance. Carefully avoid thinking in stereotypes, finding value in all cultures and faiths. Prejudice. Always think in stereotypes, looking upon them as outsiders, as strange, incomprehensible, and less worthy. So stereotypes means, it can be a positive stereotype. All Chinese are industrious. It's a positive stereotype, but of course it's not true. There are some lazy Chinese. And then some other ethnic group might be thought of as lazy, but there are some that aren't lazy. So if you think of stereotypes, you miss what an individual really is. So we want to see the individual as he or she is and not paste a stereotype on top of the person. When a friend confides that she hates those in the LGBT community, you. Tolerance. Encourage her to see the divine within everyone and appreciate those who are different. Prejudice. Agree that other lifestyles are both odd and morally unacceptable. Third situation. When a philosophical discussion at a party turns into an argument, you. Tolerance. Remain a voice of acceptance, finding strategies to embrace everyone's ideas. Prejudice. Argue vehemently against those who think differently, trying to make everyone accept your views. Reflection. Take a moment to identify a few ways in which you could improve in tolerance. And the assignment for 2 weeks, watch for the occurrence of stereotypes in conversations among family and friends. For instance, when someone suggests that people of a particular country are lazy, humbly share the perspective of tolerance and the wisdom of avoiding such generalizations. Thank you very much. Oh.